I'm excited for the conversation today. I think it's an interesting topic. I don't know that it's one that I would have immediately said, "Hey, let's talk about that." But and listen. It's funny down through the years, the things in my life that have said you're getting older, without somebody tell me you're getting older, without telling me you're getting older. I heard you're going to be a grandpa at 42. That was the first time in my life I thought, oh my goodness, I am not old enough to be a grandpa. But I was. And it's been a great thing. It's been a wonderful experience. I kind of peeked ahead at some of your notes. And I think one of the things that, and this is Ask Mike, obviously, by the way, my friend Mike Lunny. But one of the things that I don't remember seeing in your notes necessarily is, yes, it happens to all of us, but I don't know that in spite of how many different ways people say it, you realize how fast it happens, or you wake up one day and realize, man, here I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm interested, brother. What wisdom, what advice have you got?
I don't know if it's wisdom. It's more just rambling around maybe, but it kind of came from being at convention and sitting around with some adult beverages and some friends of my age group.
Right.
I'm 63 at this moment, and we just kind of talk about things. And it was like I found it interesting that there was things we were talking about that maybe could be beneficial for a younger director. That as far as personal and for their band life. And man, you hit the nail on the head when you said it happens quicker than you think it happens. It's like one day it's your first year of teaching, and then all of a sudden it's 31 years in. And I know sometimes it feels like a prison sentence. in some ways, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already at this level. We've
right.
gone this far. As you kind of sit back a little bit and you kind of think, if you think of it like a football game, by the time you're in your 60s or your late 50s and you're looking at retiring as a band director, you're kind of in your fourth quarter.
Okay.
Your first quarter, your second quarter, your halftime, your third quarter, and it's like your fourth quarter. But, just like a good football game, you kind of want that fourth quarter to be good.
Hope it's exciting.
You want it to be exciting, you don't want it to just be run the clock out and here we go. So, don't tune us out yet, oh my faithful listeners, because already I can already feel like, oh God, this is going to be like he's going to preach to us about something. It's more, and maybe it does ramble a little bit, but maybe there'll be some things in here that it's certainly not wisdom, but things for you to kind of chew on.
Yeah. And listen, I said that and then made myself laugh. I do want it to be exciting, but in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are events that are exciting that I just
we're not going to talk like colonoscopies or anything like that, so we're not going to go there. I've got plenty of good stories on that, but it's not going to enter that's a little too personal. You do know you're getting old when you have 3 pairs of glasses. I have my
one for each room
for computer, and I've got my glasses for driving and normal life, and I've got my glasses for the reading trumpet music. And I stand in my trumpet to my eye doctor and set it all up in the office so he can measure exactly how to do my glasses.
I think that's fascinating that you did that. That is I've got the progressives, but I've never even considered.
I've got the progressives, but if you're a musician and playing, you can't do this with your head to read the body to read the music, because then your trumpets, because then your trumpet's in front of the music. So it's like, I need single vision glasses for this, So
it's funny. My granddad,
you're getting old,
Love my granddad. He had reverse bifocals. It freaked me out because he played so much golf.
Okay.
So when he would look down, if he had the bifocals, he couldn't see the ball.
Yeah.
And it turns out they call those mechanics. The mechanics get these all the time because they're looking up to work on whatever they're looking at. But when they look down, they need to be able to, see normal. But I'd reverse bifocal. They can do all kinds of things.
They can.
Specific to your needs.
Like me, when I would watch movies laying on a couch, I would just take my glasses and turn them upside down.
That's great.
That way I'm not looking. That way I can see the TV better.
Man, this is such a trail. But the hardest thing for me to learn, because I didn't have them until just a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I can't shave with them.
Yeah, like, gonna cut your throat. I knew I needed them, Derek. This is a good band story. We were doing sight reading, and I just had regular single vision glasses, and I left off the page turn at the end because I never saw it. And the kids, we made a one. We didn't play the last 8 measures of the piece. You know,
You just cut them off.
yeah, I cut them off, and they all stopped, and they all smiled at me. And I went outside, and I go, "What's going on? Y'all got to clue me in." Mr. Lenny, you never rehearsed, nor did you have us play the last 8 measures. We were all wondering. And it was Barbara Lambrick had written this Drunken Sailor song for the bump,
Yeah.
bump, bump. It was the level 4. And I went back in, and after we got our trophy, and I said, that's how good the Wiley Band is. We don't
have to play the whole thing.
So did y'all realize we didn't play the last 8 measures? We were the first band in 4A. And they go, no, we didn't notice. And yeah, so, but yeah, the day after I went and got my eyes checked and got
That's
progressive
great.
lenses for bifocals so I could see the music better. It was
So we see the need for the episode.
yeah. Let's go to the episode. Yeah, we could do a bunch of old farts sitting around the breakfast table talking about how they're dying. You know, let's get to the real stuff here. You know, it's you kind of begin this stretch of your life, and slowly those truths that you kind of avoided your whole life begin to surface. You know what I mean? And things that maybe you didn't really necessarily avoid, they just weren't a concern. You know, if you're 25 years old, you don't really think about retirement. You don't think about health when you're older. You don't think about how are you going to teach when you're at a certain age. These things kind of, I don't want to say they sneak up on you, but they just kind of happen gradually. They do happen gradually. There's nothing controversial about it, you know, but aging doesn't hurt your body first. It hurts your illusions. You know, it doesn't hurt for most people, it doesn't hurt your body first. It's the idea that, have I accomplished anything? You know,
I get it.
If I've been a good spouse, have I been a good father or mother? Have I been a good band director? Have I helped it? You know, and it sounds like so, you know, Tom Hanks and, you know, what was the movie where they were going through D-Day to save that one kid that, you know, to take him home. I forget the name of the movie, but
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. Thank you, sir. That's why we pay you big money. Okay. But yeah, you know, so, and at the end of that movie, it almost makes you cry because the guy that was saved, Private Ryan, he was like, have I been a good person? He's asking his wife, has my life been worth the sacrifice?
Saving. Yeah.
Now, none of us have, for my knowledge, have gone through that, you know, but that does crop up, doesn't it? You know, do you ever think about that, Derek? You know, have I really been a good person? Have I helped people? I don't know.
Right.
You know, so, but we got to kind of deal with that. And I kind of sat down and this last week or so, and I carved out a handful of necessary truths about personal life and our life as a band director, and more importantly, how they intersect. Because for most of us, band directing is more like being a preacher at a church than it is like being an accountant in an accounting firm. Right. Our personal life and our professional life intersect probably more than they should. You know, we don't just clock out and go home. You know, we kind of live with this. Okay. So here's the first one on a personal side. Kids, whether they're your band kids or whether they're your own personal children, they do not save you from loneliness. This is not a depressing thought, but we should not put them in that role. It is not their job to provide a social structure for us.
Or fair to them.
Yeah, it's not fair to them. It's not fair to them. And I see this both in my life, things that I've done in my life, both professionally as a band director, where like, you know, and this sounds really odd to say, and I think some of my band director friends can relate to this, where you almost feel guilty when you do something with your own child that shorts your band program children. And you think to yourself, I really need to be at this event to help out with the Winter Guard or help out with the drum line or whatever. But, you know, my son's got this thing coming up, and it's a terrible thought, but it does enter your mind because your life is so consumed with being a band director. So kind of think about that for a second. Now, I don't know, just jump in anytime you want to, Derek, or I'll just,
sure.
But, you know, kids bring joy, but they're not a shield from loneliness. Okay. And in band, the students are the focus of what we're doing. They really are. They should be. Okay, at least in
Yeah.
my opinion, they should be the focus. But we have to realize that they will graduate or they will quit. We have to learn how to deal with this reality without taking it so personal. Things you can do as a professional. Try to play in some groups. If music is still the venue that you want to do, play in a church group, play in a church orchestra, play in a worship team, play in a community band, play in a brass quintet that you just make up. Yesterday, I just played. I was honored to sit in with the West Texas Jazz Orchestra and play a mean third trumpet book. So I had a blast, man. It was really a lot of fun, and it's really rewarding. So you've got to kind of, for lack of a less blunt way of saying it, you've got to somehow make a life that's not dependent upon your own personal children, if you have children, or not dependent upon your band children of giving you gratification.
Right.
There needs to be that separation. Okay.
But it's also, Mike, I think you'd agree with this. I'm not sure it's unrealistic for us to expect our natural kids and or our band kids to reciprocate the amount of investment that we put in them. I mean, you can correct me on this. A lot of our band kids, I think, expect that from you because that's your job. That's what you do. You're supposed to invest in them. But they are not all going to be band directors. They don't all have the same amount of investment. We've talked about this before. Some of these kids are in it because their friends are in it, because it's a great place to hang out. And you get to have pizza on Friday night.
Yeah, some people just want to go to the football game.
And they're not looking for, a heart connection per se.
Yeah, it's hard for us to swallow the truth, but for some of them, it's just another class.
Right. What do you call those? The chicken fried steak kids?
On the chicken fries.
Yeah.
And it just meant to be, they just like the Friday night meal, so I hope that's not too derogatory as far as like shallow thinking shallow on their part. But, we all have those things in our life that we participate in, that we go to. But to us, it's just one thing out of 100. And to the person who runs that organization, it's their life. So we all fill both those roles somewhere along the way, don't we, Derek?
Sure. And
church or a Rotary Club or whatever,
And I think to kind of restate your point, it is important as teachers, as educators, as band directors, to have an outlet that is something that fulfills you and your purpose and scratches your creative itch beyond trusting a bunch of 11 to 17-year-olds to make sure that you feel fulfilled in what you do in life.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a musical approach. I know some really good band director friends that are involved in like Habitat for Humanity, and they're in groups, the Baptist building something or another, and they travel down to South America and build homes, during the summer. And so sometimes I think, if it's the creative thing, which is kind of my venue, I really like doing that. But there's some people that like to be removed completely, where they're working and people don't even know they're a band director.
Right.
They don't even know they're a musician. They're just a guy with a hammer and a saw, and they're working their butts off. So
I think that the point I do want to make sure we make is those don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can still care about your band program. You can still care about your band kids. You can still be a phenomenal. I had to figure out which adjective I wanted to use. You can still be a phenomenal music educator and have outside interests.
Yes. And I'll one up you on the ante on that one, Derek. I think you'll be a better educator.
I'd probably agree with that.
If you have another venue, whether it's working with the church, Meals on Wheels, whatever it is, playing in a community band, you'll be fresher when you get in front of your band. You won't feel as beat down.
Right. And you'll feel younger.
Yeah. And I want to reach out to because my first 13 years was 1A, 2A. And oh man, if you're the band man or the band woman in town, you can get
or the county
or the county, you can get beat down pretty quick because every question, the church needs a new piano with the Methodist church. Now it becomes your job to figure out what to do. So it's you can get beat down pretty quick. It's the real smart ones will go and run a marathon, or they take up running, or they take up whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. But we all know people. I know directors that are pilots, and that's an outlet for them.
Yeah.
I know directors that create some of the most fantastic. We know. I just switched subjects in the middle of my own thought. How many great golfers do we know that are educators? But they can apply some of that energy and that intensity to that golf ball instead of whacking at their kids all day. So great point. I like it.
And so the next one is, and I'm not going to preach to anybody because I've definitely been on both sides of this issue, but health is not forever. And I know there's some things in our health that are genetics. There's some things that we can't control. I've got friends who have had issues that it was totally beyond their control. The things that have happened in my life have been totally in my control, and I blew it. And so I'm not going to sit here and preach to you, but I'll say this: one day, the outings that you once jumped into with enthusiasm will all of a sudden feel like a marathon. Just trying to get up off the floor after wrapping Christmas gifts will be a major decathlon event. You realize that health was never a background character. It was the main pillar holding your life steady. And I'll tell you this, it's something that really hit home with me now that I'm in my 60s. You've got to do something physical to make sure you maintain the strength in your legs, because as soon as your legs go and you can't get out of that recliner easily,
you're done.
You're done. You're done. You're about a month away from home health care. So you better go get the insurance. Okay. And I'm not saying let's break into some kind of big giant exercise routine. Whatever stage you are in life, whatever stage you are in health, work to do just a little something. If it's just, ride a bicycle, take the stairs instead of the elevator, park as far as you can away from in the Walmart parking lot, so you have to walk into the Walmart store. Do something, and instead of eating that hamburger, maybe have a salad every once in a while. So I'm not saying that your life has to change into all this miserable, count every calorie and log every activity. For me, that's the only way it worked for me, because Derek knows I'm an OCD, atomic habits kind of person. So I've got systems that govern my systems, that govern my habits, that govern my micro habits. It's ridiculous. Okay. Right. So, but it's worked for me. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but do realize that if you're a younger director, that right now you feel great, but health is not forever. Either it's things you can control, and then in a worse scenario, there's things you can't control. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you have lung cancer or throat cancer. And we all have those people. The older you get, the more people who have died. And some of them, they died because they didn't take care of themselves. Some of them died, they just were stricken with cancer or some disease, and things have gone that vicious cycle to where finally they passed away. So I'm not trying to be too depressing, but think about it.
No, but I'll say this too, Mike, that this is part of the aging process as well. Even in my 40s and 50s, as I was watching other people battle things, I felt pretty bulletproof.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just didn't deal with a lot of things. Let me rephrase that. I didn't go get checked very much. But
I wasn't going to bring that up, but I knew you had this, you didn't like doctors. You didn't like well, not that you didn't like doctors. Yeah.
My doctor's great now. I just don't want to hear what they have to say sometimes.
Yeah. The same reason some band directors don't invite clinicians.
I felt good.
See what I did there?
I see what you did there. But I'm telling you, I felt good for most of my 40s and 50s. I didn't really feel like I was in decline. But you said it this way, there will be a day. And if you don't make time for your health, what is it you're saying? Then
if you don't take time for your wellness, you will be forced to take time for your illness.
For your healing, yeah. But I guess my point is, because I'm a lot like you, big picture overwhelms me.
Yeah.
This huge goal of how do I get from where I am to where I need to be? I have to knock out little things that I know. Started taking some vitamins, started taking some supplements, started walking, started tracking that walking, because that appeals to my nature of the routine and the tracking of that. And all those little things will add up to the big things.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to encourage is, as our younger friends, go ahead and start incorporating some of those small things now, because they will pay big. It's almost like investing or saving. Do what you can now. Do the little things now, because it will add up in a big way.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And, it's if you haven't read it, people know that I've got my Bible because I'm a Christian man, but I've also got Atomic Habits, which is my secondary Bible. But to start working out, I had to use the system in Atomic Habits, and it's unbelievable. It's like I set my alarm clock to get up at a certain time, but I didn't go do anything else. I just got up.
Right.
Then the
Step
next
one.
week,
Yeah.
next week I set out my clothes I was going to wear, and I put those clothes on at my house, but I didn't go to the gym. Then the next week, I put those clothes on and I went to the gym at that time, and I sat in the parking lot and scrolled on my phone. Think about that for a second. It was in Atomic Habits. I just followed their routine. And then the next time I went into the gym and I spent 10 minutes on the treadmill. And then, and it's progressed now to this point where this morning I did an hour of cardio and an hour of lifting weights at 4:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? And it expanded from those little tiny micro habits to where it was a pleasure to go do something. And it almost makes me feel uneasy if I don't get to go do something. You know what I mean? So and it's funny you brought up investing, because that is our next thing. We're talking retirement and money. And money.
You get to talk about this subject.
Okay. The two things of personal and professional intersect greatly right here. This is interesting to think of it this way, but retirement is not a reward. It's a reality check. You know, there's no number for it. People say, when do you retire? I'm going to retire at 55. And I'm going, well, can you retire at 55? Well, I don't know.
Practical?
That's when I'm going to retire is 55. It's like, it's a reality check. It's not a year. It's a plan. And, you know, I want to say it this way, but let me explain it after I say it. Money is more reliable than anything else.
Okay.
That sounds stupid, but let me explain for a moment. You know, we love our kids, we cherish them, but don't make them your retirement plan. Don't depend on your kids to take care of you. Now, I've got a wonderful son, and I know he would take care of me. And I know he would, but I'm not relying on him to take care of me. Professionally, don't make the job everything, your band director job. Because if you're making your band director job everything, I know directors who spend probably monetarily, on average, $150 to $200 a month on supplies.
Out of pocket.
Out of their own pocket. I'm not saying that's wrong. I will tell you this. I never did that. When I left my job after working at one place for 19 years, I had one milk crate. That was it. One milk
personal stuff.
Of my personal stuff. It was some pictures and some file folders. Everything else was trashed. Everything else was bought by the school, and sometimes I couldn't afford it, so I had to wait. But the office chair was not mine. The desk was not mine. There was nothing in that building that was mine. But think about this for a second. If you're spending $150 to $200 a month out of your pocket for school supplies because you love those children, which I'm not denying that, I respect that. If you put that from age 22 to 60 in an account at the average rate of what the ETFs and what the stock market has done over the past 40 years, you'd have $2.9 million when you retire in a portfolio, because of the rule of 72 and because of compound interest. And that's just, now I'm not saying that's how the world's going to be forever, but that's how it's worked the last 40 years. So you've got a choice of, and I hate to say it this way, it's okay to help the kids, but don't do it at the own detriment of your retirement. There will be a time you're going to need that money, and those kids are not going to be there to give you money to buy groceries and to pay for health care. So that's a really blunt assessment of things. You know, save for yourself. Even small savings create big freedom. Financial independence is dignity. It allows you to professionally to make more choices. There was times I went from one job to another where, because of my investments, that I was able to do things, and it wasn't like, well, I've got to have this much money to do this. Does it make sense? Where
it does.
It's like, I can afford to do that. And it wasn't that I was a rich person by any means, but I was financially independent to the level, once I retired, no one can control me financially.
Or say there is an independence to that is almost priceless.
Yeah, it's definitely priceless. It's you don't have a boss anymore.
Right.
You don't have a boss. You can just get up and do whatever you want to do. And you do things because you love them. I do this podcast not to make a fortune. Tarpley Music does a wonderful job supporting it and
Right.
allowing me to have an honorarium to come do this, and I'm very grateful for that. But it's not a get rich quick scheme. Okay, I do it because I love doing it, and if there comes the time when I don't want to do it, I'll just give everyone fair warning, and I'll just say I don't want to do this anymore. And it's not like any of my bills are dependent upon the gracious opportunity that Tarpley gives me in this. So I appreciate their support, but it's nice to have that independence
Sure.
where it's not attached to my electric bill.
Well, and Mike, I'm going to twist on you a little bit too. That you were talking about that $150 a month.
Yeah.
That a lot of people say, well, I don't have the money to invest, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that I realized is I'm going to use the word vices, and I'm not talking about evil vices. I'm talking about, I used to drink 3 or 4 super big gulps a day. Back in the day, those were 89 cents a piece.
Yeah.
Now they're more than that.
Yeah.
Or anything, most bottled carbonated beverages are $2 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you didn't spend that money on those 2 or 3 times a day, times 30, you're getting pretty close to making a pretty good dent in that money that you could invest.
Yeah.
If you didn't have if you didn't invest all that money in snacks, if you didn't invest all that money in fast food, but you cooked at home, listen, this sounds more like a Dave Ramsey conversation, but
now we're getting very boomer oriented, but that's okay.
But my point being is that you're going to get to your 60s, and go, man, as I stop and look back at how much money I invested, and listen, people smoke, people use tobacco, people enjoy beverages. I'm not saying you can't do any of that stuff, but what I'm saying is if you're looking for where your money goes, look at the superfluous beyond the bills.
Yeah.
So anyway, because those things...
Right. Yeah, a lot of times, I go and work with bands, but sometimes we delve into their budgets, not their school budgets, but their personal budgets. But there was one couple, it was hilarious because they were talking about their budget. I said, well, kind of give me a background of what's your budget look like? I said, well, we give each other out of our budget $600 a month each for eating out. And I said, do you realize for $1,200 you could pay a person to come cook you dinner every night? They could show up Sunday and bring you 7 meals and put it in your freezer, and you would have a meal every night, and you'd have lunch and breakfast, and we never thought
they'd probably be healthier meals.
Yeah, they'd be healthier meals, instead of Taco Bell the whole time. But and I'm not going to sit here because I know there's some of my younger viewers they get so tired of hearing this, and I understand. Getting coffee from Starbucks is not keeping you. It's not the problem of owning a home. I've heard boomers say that. Said if you'll just quit buying such expensive coffees, you can buy. No, there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, my college degree cost $8,000.
I get it.
I bought my first house for $32,000. Now
it's an expensive world. Yeah.
$80,000, and your first home will be $400,000. So I understand completely that we're fighting those young people. I don't know how they're going to survive on this, but even in whatever you're doing, if you can just do $20 a month, if you can just find 20, just start. Please, just start. Just go to Edward Jones or Merrill Lynch, and don't be a day trader, because there's day traders are called broke. There's a day trading is gambling. It's in gambling, and we're getting into it's a Dave Ramsey episode now, isn't it? But the biggest addiction in the United States is pornography. The second biggest addiction is sports gambling.
I agree with that. It shocked me to think about that 2 years ago, but I'm not shocked by it anymore.
Yeah. So there's people who their entire financial future is being ruined by the joy of gambling on how many fourth downs will be converted in the third quarter of a football game. Not even.
It is amazing the things that they will put odds on.
Yeah. It's bizarre now, but everyone's got their vices. A good friend of mine, Mr. Dan Gibbs. You remember Mr. Dan Gibbs?
Yeah, I love Mr. Dan Gibbs.
He's well set up, and he's financially has done his thing. But he told me one day, and anyone who knows Mr. Dan Gibbs will get a chuckle out of this. He told me one time, he goes, Mike, Some men gamble, some men smoke, some men drink a lot, some men cheat on their wives. He goes, I've got one vice: clothes.
He is a snappy dresser.
Oh my gosh. He has like 30 sports coats of many colors. You know what I
Right.
mean? He was amazing, down to his socks. He would show me
Right.
his socks. He goes, hey, Mike, you see my new socks? I mean, those are nice. I
Right.
just got my black socks on.
I can't say I've got my crew socks on.
But to say that everyone has their vice, and I will say this, that even though I want you to invest, there's got to be some joy to life. Find
Sure,
something. If it makes you happy to smoke a cigar every once in a while, it's not healthy. It's not a great use of money. But if that's what brings you some joy, if you need it, you've got my blessing.
Right. And listen, I didn't want to come across wrong either. I'm much more interested in the habitual expenditure as opposed to the the moment of I'm going to relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something in today's economics, and something as simple as I got a policy for home health care because, for long-term health care, because I'm in my 60s and that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I don't want to be a burden to anyone. Don't want to eat up my assets. But it was funny to think about, how much that's going to be and how much I'm going to pay for it. And, at different stages of your life, where you need life insurance at a certain point and then you don't need really life insurance later because you should be set up. And then you got to go through these stages. So just try to take time to plan that out. Okay. So we'll leave the finance part for a while. We don't want to. Dave Ramsey's going to.
But they do intersect. That was the point we're making.
Oh my God. And they intersect because the band directors I know who, from just talking to them, that they've had some issues with their personal finances, tend to not be able to manage their school finances either.
Right.
They don't have control over, when their bills are paid or whatever. And so the two do intersect greatly because it's a situation to where it's a skill. Just like, I can't rebuild an engine. My brother could. He was an amazing mechanic. He's passed away now, but he was an amazing mechanic. But I can't even. I try to put together a bookshelf and I drop the screwdriver 50 times. You know what I mean? It's so sad. It's so sad. In fact, when I need something repaired, I went through a time in my life where I tried to repair it, but then it cost me more because the repairman would show up after I screwed it up more and go, "Who did this?"
Really?
I did. So it's going to cost you $500 more now on this dryer because you just screwed it up. Oh, dang it. So now
I have to unfix it and then fix it again.
Just to fix what I screwed up. So now it's like, it's cheaper just to call someone where you got the Dane Richardsons of the world who could like build a house. You know what I mean?
So, but let me see if this summarizes a little bit, or at least I want to make sure I make this point in this section that there's no shame in that not being a strength.
Right.
Just find someone to help you. Listen, in my marriage, Sharana, financial wizard. Derek, if there's a check in the checkbook, that dates me, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Then I must have money.
Yeah.
So I had to be honest enough to say, I'm not real good at this financial stuff. I'm either, if I was a director, going to hire somebody that's good at it, go find somebody that can help me take care of it. And in my personal life, if I'm not good at it, I'm not going to be too proud to go say, I need help.
Yeah.
So, and do that early, not later.
Yeah. And in your school finances, find out if you can. This is a quiet part out loud, so we have to whisper it. Find out if you can from your financial people. There's two sets of, at the time, paperwork, but now it's all done on computer, of the things that the school board looks at as far as raises in budget items. And there's a certain percentage. Think about this for a second, because if it goes above that percentage on that line item, then it's in a separate stack. And that's what the school board looks at. They don't look at the big stack because it's like floor wax and everything else. So at Wiley for 19 years, Mr. Light, you out there? My superintendent, are you out there? Every single line item raised by 4.99% every year for 19 years. Because 5% put it in the other stack.
Right.
And the budget went from 75,000 to you can't even believe. Compound interest was a thing. It's when you're raising the amount on it every year. So if you can find that out, that's your quiet part out loud out there, band directors. Find that out in your school district because the school board will never see. It's like they'll never see it growing. It'll just be like in this big old giant stack of documents on their computer, and they're not going to go through them. It's when you go up by 15% in capital outlay that they go, "What's going on here?
Hold on.
We're buying chandeliers. What are we doing here?" All right. And not to go over it again, but health is your real job. Make sure guard your sleep like treasure. That's so hard because I did not know how much sleep I needed until I retired.
And how it affects your health.
That is so sad to admit out loud because I did not know because I just didn't get enough sleep. So the alarm clock would wake up and I'd kind of try to roll out of bed and just try to suck down some caffeine. But, since I've retired, I've had enough times where I can just go to sleep. And I've realized that it's 7 hours. I need 7 hours. Okay. Right. So if I don't have an alarm clock, it'll be, if I go to bed at 10, I'll get up at 5 because it's 7 hours later, right. And so it's find out how much sleep that you need because it's different for each person. Okay. And illness doesn't discriminate, but it respects those who take responsibility for themselves. Okay. So you've got to try to do something, eat cleaner, reduce poison disguised as sugar and salt.
Right.
I know some doctors have said sugar is more addictive than cocaine.
I saw something the other day that said that, I don't remember how many years ago, 50 to 100 years ago, the average American consumed less than 10 pounds of sugar a year.
Yeah.
And now it's exponentially higher than that.
Oh,
because sugar is hidden by so many other names in products now.
Yeah. But I'd screwed up my life so much that I became a type 2 diabetic, and I'm like right now I'm wearing a glucose monitor, and I've pretty much eradicated almost all sugar out of my diet. I mean, that was hard. That was the hardest hurdle to overcome. It took me, I'm not going to lie to you, it took me about 6 months to where that wasn't just a craving.
And the withdrawals are real.
It was, man, I felt I was miserable. But then once I kind of finally got across that hurdle, it's and I know even the artificial sweeteners are not the best for you, but like my sugar intake is almost at zero. As far as there's no added sugar, there's no coffee sweeteners, there's no anything like that. So, and that's just because I had to, because it was either that or die.
Right. And again,
it wasn't like an aesthetic choice. It was like, okay, you're going to die if you keep doing this. Your kidneys are going, your liver's going. You're going to kill yourself.
To the point of this conversation, start looking at that stuff now.
Yeah, when you're young. Yeah.
So
don't screw up like I did.
We did.
I wasn't going to include you in that, so
that's fine.
I think we're good of a friend. No,
you and I have had enough conversations to know when the doctor walks in and goes, "Hey, did you know you're diabetic?"
Yeah.
What?
Do you want to be able to get out of your chair? Do you want to be able to use the bathroom by yourself when you're 75 and take care of your paperwork?
Right.
Yeah. No, those were actual discussions in my life. Okay, and thankfully, I'm in a better place now. So we'll see. Hopefully, it's not just a fad. Okay. The next one is aging is not an excuse to become helpless. We all know those people who they get to a certain age and then it's like everyone needs to help me now. And there's times we need help. We do. But I think most people know what I'm talking about. The people that just use, well, I'm old, so I can't do this. Here, do this for me, kind of thing.
Right.
And don't use that as an excuse. And I'll tell you why. People are turned off to that. There's something magnetic about a person who is willing to help themselves.
Right.
And you're going to push people that you love away from you. If you're constantly, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? I can't do this anymore. Can you do this for me? And we've all, I say all, if you haven't gone into this, you will. And I don't know, Derek, if you've experienced this, but when you get in that in-between sandwich moment where, you're taking care of your parents, but you're also trying to raise your kids. And it's a tough part of life, man. To me, that was the toughest part of life.
Right.
To me, because you got responsibilities both directions. And as much as my parents needed me, that was kind of, I hate to admit it, but there's times when I wanted to avoid that.
Right.
Because it was always, every phone call was a problem. There was never a phone call of just joy, and it was always, oh, I can't do this, and I can't do this, and can you come do this? And I did it because that's what you're supposed to do as a kid. But be careful of that as you get older.
Right.
I try really hard to think twice before I call my son about something. Am I just calling him to complain, or maybe I should just call and ask how his day was.
Well, and I was going to suggest that, Mike, that sometimes we know when we pick up the phone and we're like, I really don't want to have to make this call. But listen, I haven't had any tragedy or any matter of fact, I still fight. Leave me alone and let me do this. I'm not unable. I'm kind of at that stage. Everybody's like, "Oh, let me do that for you. Let me do." Just leave me alone and let me do my stuff. It's what I do. But at some time, I think it's important for us to say, you know what? I need to just call somebody and tell them, "Hey, man, I was thinking about you. I appreciate you, and tell me how your day is." When they're expecting, "Oh, I need help," and I don't know that I'm trying to create exaggerations just so you can hear my point, but you are exactly right. At some point, people don't want to answer the phone when they see your name pop up. So don't get to that point.
Yeah. People respect the ones who stay capable, not the ones who surrender.
Right. That's a great way to put that.
That's a professional thing. It's just something to chew on. This is kind of a rambling podcast, but it's one I've really wanted to do. Okay. Sure. And the next one is let go of the past as a director and also in your personal life. The good old days were beautiful, but they're gone. We can't go back. We're homesick for a time that's not going to ever exist again. And I'm as bad as anyone else of my age group. Back in the day when marching bands, blah, blah, blah. Back in the day when we did such and such. That's pretty good when you're around all your old farts like yourself. You know what I mean? We all talk about the good old days, and we complain about, the bands that wiggle and dance or whatever.
Right.
But don't be that person that's continually back in the day. I'm pretty bad about that, to tell you the truth. So I've got to work on that. Clinging to the past steals from the present.
Right. And I saw this point in your notes, and I need to say one thing. I need to say the human brain is made up to remember good things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't remember the struggle. We don't remember a lot of the difficulty. That's the reason women have more than one child. They don't remember how bad it hurt. They just remember the joy of the child. And that's a broad statement coming from a man. So take that for whatever it's worth.
Be careful, man. You're treading thin ice right now.
No, I'm just saying it's a painful process. And I'm not sure that and I'm as guilty as anybody, when we yearn for the good old days, we're just remembering the good times. These can be the good old days. Quit assuming that everything was better. And if you've had a great life, just be thankful for a great life. But I guess the point to back you up, quit living there.
Yeah.
If it was great, it was great, but you don't live there. You live now. So make this great.
Yeah.
And just because I'm 60, I don't have to sacrifice great.
Yeah. And be ready for, things that change in life. If you'd asked me 20 years ago what my life would be like when I'm 63, it'd have been a total different conversation than what actually happened.
Exactly.
And it's amazing the difference in my life. And I'll tell you right now, this is the best chapter of my life ever. Yeah. It's totally different than I thought life was going to be for Mike Lenny. But it's a really good chapter in my life. Is it perfect? Not even close. But there's still so many moments worth living. You know what I mean? So I don't want to preach to anybody, but when things happen that's drastic in your life, it's not always for the bad. It's not always going to be a bad outcome. It might be painful at the moment, but there might be some good things happening here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sometimes the Lord closes one door, and sometimes He slams it on your hand. And it's still good that door closed, even though it was painful.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Overthinkers, I'll speak to you real quick. Quit imagining, let it happen.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. The overthinkers will know what I mean.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I realize most of the things I worried about never happened.
Right.
It's never happened.
And one of the greatest things I ever read was all the worry is not going to change the outcome.
Yeah. It's just, and we can't help but worry a little bit. But
right, live where your feet are.
And
is that what you say?
Yeah, that's right. And kind of pushes me to the next point. Protect your peace like it's your property, because it's the only property you really own. You don't own land. The government owns the land. And we won't go into my governmental conspiracy theories right here. They'll turn into another podcast.
Let's keep this one upbeat.
Yeah. I hate the government. I can't even express in words how much I hate our government. Okay. But not every argument needs your voice every day. Not every insult needs your response. I'm at the age now when someone insults me, I'm like, oh, okay.
Cool.
Well, it had been fighting words 20, 30 years ago. Not every relative deserves access to your emotions.
Oh, you probably need to say that one again.
Not every relative deserves access to your emotions. They don't. Sometimes it's okay just to look at them and go, oh, okay.
Right.
I respect your point. You don't agree with what I'm doing. That's fine.
Well, and I also think that there comes a point where you can say, man, I'm sorry you feel that way. But that's your choice. You get to feel that way.
Yeah. And peace is very expensive in energy. Damn expensive in energy. Okay. You have to spend a lot of energy to maintain peace. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but those who have lived a life and made many mistakes in their life, like Mike Lunny, and maybe even Derek every once in a while, and know that it's really damn expensive in energy to have peace in your life. You've got to build up those walls to make sure that you protect it. Protect it from drama, negativity, people that are energy vampires, those draining people. Even if they're close to you, you've got to somehow negate that effect, because I call them energy vampires. They just suck the life out of you, things to think.
I agree with that. And listen, this is going to backtrack a little bit. I think it speaks to this point as well. I don't think any of us are immune to having had stupid moments.
Oh yeah.
I seem to, and listen, I can say this because I'm saying it about myself. I think selfishness is kind of the root of most of the ills of the world. And I've been one of the most selfish people I've ever known in my life, early on in particular. But I've also been one of those people that have held on to some of the stupid things that I did and just let it beat me up for a long time. And at some point, and this goes back to your past comment, I just had to sit down and make peace with the fact that stuff happened. I had to make peace with the fact that, and this is going to sound terrible, and maybe it's deeper than we needed to go in something like this. Not everybody's going to forgive. Not everybody's going to ever see you more than that one snapshot they had of you in their life. And there have been moments that I've shown up and thought, man, this is going to be so cool to have this reunion, and people just didn't want to reunion.
Yeah.
To invent a word. They still saw that stupid 23-year-old or whatever age it happened to be. And that's who I'm going to be to them for the rest of my life. For my own sanity, I had to get to the point where I know who I am. I know who I am, made things right with God and did my personal part of it, and then learn how to be happy and learn how to move forward in that situation because I think that, and you're welcome to counter this. Emotional, creative people want everybody to like them and want everybody to see how hard they're working to be awesome and to compliment. And it's just not the reality of our life, that we have all done things that we thought, and there's still sometimes that I catch myself going, why in the world did I do that? What was the thought process? So that went deep and dark all of a sudden. But my point being, the healthier aspect is to make peace with it. I've heard people say, face your demons, do the things that you need to do. And at some point, just accept the fact that your circle of friends, I hope that you have some who really care about you, are really all you're going to ever need. and rejoice in that, be happy in that. And sometimes we can convince ourselves that we're getting an unfair shake. But just remember that people are people, and they remember what they remember in the snapshot of time that they remember it in. And so I don't know why I felt compelled to share that, but there it is. As I've gotten older, I had to learn how to make peace with a lot of stuff. And I've learned to say, I'm happy where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy being the person. I'm still working, but the person I am now is a good person. And I have friends like Mike Lunny who will say, or, hey, good job.
You know me, I'll tell you the truth.
But I'm saying, if I would have known that, I wasted so many years worrying about what other people remembered or thought, or, regret is harsh. So make peace with that stuff and move on. I guess that's what I hope that fit one of your points, but I just
it does. Okay. And the last point to make is, and this is hard to do the older we get because we feel like we have our things we do and whatever, but keep learning something, anything. Stagnation makes you old. Stagnation makes you old. Learning keeps you young. And I think there's a real strong correlation. It's medically proven that, if you continue to play a musical instrument or decide to play, take up a little bit of keyboard or whatever, that if you do that, on a regular basis, it helps in your mind. You know what I mean? As far as, memory, as far as cognitive skills or whatever, because I still like to practice my trumpet. I still play. I've practiced now for 50 years. And I've had students say, why do you keep practicing? I said, well, I keep getting a little bit better.
Even still.
Yeah, I kind of stole that from Yo-Yo Ma. I think Yo-Yo Ma said that about cello. Said, why do you still keep practicing? I said, well, every day I get better. So, and I do it just not to get better because I've never was an incredible trumpet player. Every trumpet player thinks they're incredible. The older I get, I realize how mediocre I actually was. But I do it because it keeps my brain fresh. This morning I like to practice my trumpet for 45 minutes. I've got little backing tracks, and it's real stupid and cheesy, but I like playing my horn.
Right. And I will also say this: retrogression's a thing. That if you don't practice every day, you will get worse. But or at least your muscles will deteriorate and you won't be able to play at the same level. But I think I heard this once, that as soon as you quit learning, you start dying.
Yeah.
So, and that fits in your stagnation. Anything that doesn't move stinks.
Yeah, that's right. So, you're either getting ripe or you're rotting. We want to keep getting ripe.
Garrett's like, that's great. I love these thoughts, Mike. These have been fantastic things to think.
I know this is a bizarre podcast. This is really weird because it had some to do, I think a lot actually, to do with band directing, but more with personal life. And it's just things that kind of weighed on my soul a little bit. And I just felt like preaching a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
Right. But our peers are these people.
Mm-hmm.
We have similar experiences.
Yeah.
And we talk about mentoring all the time. This seems like a weird mentoring thing, big brother, whatever you want to say. But listen to somebody that's been there and has the advantage of reflection. So young people, you'll be us before you know it.
Yeah. And it's and we need mentors for everything. It's been interesting as my journey as helping out with bands. It's still working with bands, of course, and working with music or whatever. But it started to delve into, people who are band directors are getting divorced, or band directors who are moving jobs, or band directors who, are having trouble with whatever, or their personal finances or school finances or problems. I feel like sometimes I just show up at the band hall, it's like, lay down on the couch, tell me, how was your mother? Is this a mother issue? What do you I feel like a psychiatrist more than a band clinician sometimes.
Or a bartender.
Or a bartender, yeah. Just keep polishing the glass because they want you to do something. If you just stand there and stare at them, I just kind of keep, messing with my phone as I ask questions, so I'm like a bartender polishing that whiskey glass, So, we need mentors in our life, and just reach out to them, and, it's just a good deal.
realize that there's people with common experiences,
Mhm.
and shared experiences make us feel human,
Mhm.
as opposed to unique and trapped in some fresh hell that nobody else understands.
Yeah.
So, man, good stuff, brother.
Yeah. It was fun.
It's one of those deals that I love it that everybody, it's funny. One of your points you made, 65 was always the number to me that everybody retires when they're 65.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Even Social Security disagrees with that now because my
Right.
Social Security is 67.
Right.
They keep bumping it up because they're betting that we'll die, and we're betting they'll give us some money.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure they've got the better bet.
But, and everybody, as a young person, my assumption was everybody's going to be set for life. And as you said, it's a reward. But the reality of being in my 60s is that make some better choices in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and enjoy. And I'm going to say this again. Please don't suffer in silence. Find people to talk to, find people to reach out to. People aren't as judgy as we think they are. There's gossips in the world, but people will give you genuine answers, and you will learn something from just about anybody you talk to, one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying share your deepest, darkest secrets with everybody. That I don't want you to misunderstand me there, but we have common experiences. Find some of us 60-year-olds and say, "Hey, man, when did you know, or what did you think, or how did this affect you?" And listen to all the wisdom that will just pour out, whether they realize it or not. So,
and I'll throw into there just one last little statement. When I'm 63, I still have people I talk to that are 79 to 85.
Yep,
they're still my mentors.
Right. It doesn't.
So
doesn't stop.
Don't think that we're talking to you as people who have arrived.
Right.
We're people who are hopefully midstream. You know what I mean? Right. Well, we're a little bit above. Never mind. Statistically, we're above the middle age, but there's still questions I ask of people who are 79, 81, 82. It's that part never ends. Okay.
Right. So there you go. Aging. Can't escape it. Might as well embrace it.
That's right. It's going to catch you sooner or later. You might as well deal with it.
You might have to take vitamins that say 50 plus on them, or silver, or whatever.
Centrum 50. Yeah, man. Good stuff.
Go see the doctor. Keep it healthy. So, I don't know a graceful way to exit this, Mike.
Yeah,
I appreciate the fact that we're both here.
We both just need to shut up. Yes, we should both shut up and say goodbye.
A sign of aging.
Sign of aging. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Bye.